Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the Bizz Bitch Podcast. I'm Jasmine, your host, founder of the Bizz Bitch community, and also your go-to girl for all things community and memberships. I am so excited for today, which is a solo episode. Well, mostly solo. I'm going to admit today's the first day I have podcasted and let these little guys, and if you're not watching on video and you're just listening, I'm talking about my little puppy dogs, be in the frames. So we're going to see how this goes. But this is Nugget. He is my co host for the day, as you can see. And if you are not watching and you are watching, Nugget is a bug. So he's a Boston Terrier pug. He's real cute, and we're going to see how this goes. All right. I'm excited for today's solo episode. And I also wanted to start with a little bit of a life update and things I've got going on in my world right now, because I'm not doing that too much in my guest episodes, but also wanted to play around with it a little bit in my solo stuff. So I feel like I have this mixed energy and this mixed thing going on in my head with a new year. It's mixed of I am so freaking excited for the energy and what's going on and what's going to happen for me in my business and personal life in 2026. Because as much as I do say I shed a lot in 2025 between friends, business models, business ideas, literal body parts of me, I'd be lying to myself, and I don't want to lean into energy that I didn't have some really cool, epic shit happen in 2025 for me. And I'm really proud of those things. And I don't want to ignore those because I also had some really amazing, life-changing things happen in 2025. And I'd want to give the space to honor those and not be thankful and just say that last year was all this shedding, because I had some really cool things happen. And with 2026, I have no doubt some really cool things will happen in my business this year and to me, but I'm a little bit mixed, and I feel like I get this energy honestly every January where I'm like coming out of my like cocoon or my hibernation, and like my mind needs a minute to switch on, because I have someone who I have built a full vacation into my business over the holidays. It's what works for me. It's what I like. My boyfriend Dan gets 2 weeks off, and I like to be as present as I can during that time. I plugged in a few times, but to be honest, I really took time off and just enjoyed the holidays. My mom was in town, my best friend was in town, and I got to spend time with him and do some really fun things and just really take time out of my business. I did do a few small like passion projects, like one of them was bringing this podcast to life, but I really did take time off. So as I'm transitioning into like this new energy and getting my brain to like fire on all cylinders, and we're now halfway through January, I'd be lying to you to say that I just came into January and was like, I'm so excited to work. I have so many things. Like, no, I was like, where am I? What am I doing this year? What is my vision? What is my goals? Like, how do I want to show up? How do I want to live the most authentic, fulfilled life this year? And as someone, I don't know if it's my Scorpio side doesn't want to just like jump into things, or my projector side, I am not someone that can just sit down and feel like I have my whole life planned out for me. I need some time. And so I've tried to be giving myself some time, and really packed in the last few weeks with work, obviously, and showing up for my clients in the way that I know I need to, but also a lot of space to just be me and feel into like what I'm calling in this year. And that a lot of that has been surrounding myself with community to see what I find in that space, and also some solo time and what I find in that time for what I want this year to be. And part of that has been really playing with some of the energetics work. I'm a really big strategy girl, and I feel like last year I leaned into a lot of the strategy and systems and maybe pulled back sometimes in some ways from like the mindset work and the energy work. And so this year I wanted to make sure that I have a better balance of those two. And quantum leaping is something that keeps coming up for me, and I don't know what that means. And I don't know why. And the reason why I share this is because I had this realization at an event I was at in Laguna Beach last weekend, that I can have quantum leaped, and I have done some huge impactful things that like make zero sense when it comes to my personal life. An example would be deciding I was going to move to Australia. All of a sudden I was packing bags, I was living there, and life was happening there. Other things would be traveling solo, on with when I barely had any money and I didn't know what I was doing, and all of a sudden the universe provided for me, right? I've had these really amazing moments in my personal life, getting these really cool experiences being on private yachts, private jets, right? And getting my eyes exposed and invited in and tickets to really cool things and just like having people in my world and in my sphere that have helped me quantum leap to what is possible. However, I've realized that I think in my business, there's no doubt I've had some really amazing things happen to me. So I want to give credit and space to like that. And I'm so thankful. However, I don't think my business has quite done the quantum leap in what I imagine it to be quite yet. And what I think has happened. What I mean by that, I feel like my businesses have been more on this steady path of growing lessons. You've hit that next notch, you've checked that next box, you've done that next thing. And I'm just like slowly getting there versus getting the energy to just take me from 0 to 100 in a certain space. And I'm still very much working through this. And I think I'm going to have to come back to you on why this has happened or what is meant to happen for my business. And, maybe there is more quantum leaps that have happened that I'm not giving myself recognition for. But I truly feel like I haven't had that happen yet. I'm ready for it and I want it and I want to call it in and I want to give my self the space and the energy to call that in. And so I've been trying to read about it, live in the energy of it. I went to this event called Quantum Vibes and just really understand where I need to work and places I need to give attention to have this kind of transformation in my life. So stay tuned for what that means. And also, you know what, girls? I'm going to be honest. I ain't doing dry January. I never really have. I don't really feel the pressure to. And I want this to be your permission. If you are doing dry January, I think that's amazing. But if you aren't, I also think that's amazing. I'm doing what we call a damp January. I'm just saying no to it a little bit more and only having wine or even at dinner when I'm going out if it's like a celebration or something because there's meaning behind it for the month of January, just to like feel better and give myself a little bit of clear energy. But I'm not subscribing to the fact that I need a damp January because you know what? I've got a lot of other things going on in my head right now, planning for the year, thinking about my business for the year, my health for the year, and so many of things. Like, I don't need another stress of trying to figure out, like, improving to myself or anyone that I need to stop drinking for anything. And I don't know, judge me if you want to, but I wanted to say that because I wanted you, if you're listening and you're an entrepreneur and you're listening with me and you're feeling the same thing of like, I don't feel like I need to do it. I'm not sure why we're doing it and the pressure of the world. And you know what? I almost feel like as I've been asking more or like hanging out with different people more, it is more of the people in my world that work traditional roles and in careers and work for somebody else who are doing dry January versus us as entrepreneurs. And I don't know if I have a full realization about that yet or like what that actually means, but I was just noticing because in my like last 3 entrepreneur community events, and I'm not talking those who have fully decided to be sober, which I think I fully respect that decision as well. But those of us that do casually have a wine when we want to and don't overindulge most of the time, most of us aren't doing it in the entrepreneur world. But a lot of my friends who work more traditional roles are. I don't know. Take it or leave it. It was just something that came to mind. So with that, let's get into the new year and new energy and what this episode today is all about, which I thought the like dry January thing was a kind of a good example into this. Mainstream media, social media, TV, the health industries can make January feel like this really weird pressure cooker of a space that makes you feel like you are so behind. And specifically as an entrepreneur, right? Everyone's got their goals, everyone's done their vision boards. And it's just like it's like you come off this vacation and just get thrown into this wild world of having to have your shit figured out within like a 48-hour period. And this year, and actually probably last year, it's made me almost like want to reject it all and put up this giant wall to it all and be like, girl, I am not ready. This is not for me. I don't want to subscribe to this pressure that I need to have my whole entire business figured out, goals, vision board in the first week of January. And my body honestly kind of wasn't letting it happen either. I tried to sit down a few times, I'll be really honest, and just kind of hit a wall. It was almost like writer's block. The vision couldn't come to me. The word wasn't coming to me. What I was trying to do wouldn't come to me. I felt like if I was in a setting with friends and other people, what I was writing down was just to kind of fill space sometimes and fill the time versus like truly what I wanted on the inside and truly how I saw my year panning out. And so with that, I decided to kind of take it a little bit differently this year. And in ways, I do think this is kind of how I did it last year too, without noticing, and giving myself the space to set myself up for 2026 in a different way. And so I want to share that with you today. I want this episode to be for you and give yourself the permission to feel into how you want to set yourself up for the year. How do you want to goal set? How do you want to vision board? How do you want to call in what you're calling in? How do you want to reflect on last year? And so I'm going to share what worked for me because it's a little bit different than works for others. And I want this to just be an idea to you. But like, if it's not the way you do it, I also don't want you to feel guilty. And like, I'm trying to tell you how to do it. And like, you're going to have all the answers answered for you by the end of this because this is my exercise and I still don't have all the answers. My vision board is like 95% done. My goals are like everything's kind of like 95% done, but I'm giving myself a little bit of movement and room in them to continue working on them. So the personal framework and how I've came to it this year and what has been feeling really aligned is this. I reflected and I reflected pretty dang hard and went really deep on things that felt good. From reflection, I went into actual like goals being different than tasks. And as I was putting goals for this year, I realized in past years, I think I've been doing a little bit more heavier on the tasks versus goals. And I'll share what I mean by this once we break it down a little bit more. And then from reflection to the goals, then I took the time to do my vision board and doing my vision board, calling exactly what I want that is aligned to my goals and my reflection, all the work I had done. So not just finding pretty images in magazines and on the internet that kind of align with what I want, finding the exact images and things that I want that match the exact goals I have written down on a piece of paper. So an example of that would be like the exact revenue amount I want to hit for this year and finding that exact number and writing it down. So I'm going to break this all down for you a little bit more. So with reflection this year, I did a mixture of some journaling. I did a mixture of talking to my trusty side assistant, ChatGPT, and also taking the time to look at last year. And so these are some of the things that I looked at. I looked at my numbers from last year, and I don't just mean my financial numbers. So I looked at my financial numbers from last year, and I also looked at my KPI numbers from last year. And so my KPI numbers are a mixture of like how many social media followers, how many posts I did, how many newsletters went out, how many people are on my email list, how much my engagement level was, how many members I have inside my community, and how many people have left my community. So I looked at those hard numbers and kind of did a reflection on like, why do I think it got there? Why do I think it's going well? Why do I think things didn't perform well? And kind of asked myself the why and dug in deep. I also then took some time to reflect on some energy. Where did I feel really aligned? Where did I feel lit up? Where did I feel like I could spend hours and hours doing it and not feel like work? And then also looking at it, where did I feel so drained and so distant from things I was doing and things that didn't feel aligned? And the funny thing is if sometimes when you're looking at those things, you could have made the most money on that thing, but felt so detached and not aligned with it, which is kind of where you have to kind of sit with yourself a little bit and ask yourself, do I want to do this again? So I reflected with what worked so well. What lit me the fuck up last year? Who lit me the fuck up last year? Where did I feel the most connected last year? All those different kinds of questions and ask them to myself in different ways. And then ask myself, what are some key characteristics about myself that I want to make sure I take into the new year? What are some things about me and my business that I want to make sure we take with us in the new year? And then what are some things that I want to leave behind? It's like, how do I want to show up in 2026? Who do I want to be? Where do I want my business to be? And then what energy and what things can I do every day, every week, every month that align with that? And then what things am I leaving behind? So an example for me is I really want to show up in 2026 is really healthy and strong and just feeling really good in my body. And so for me, making sure that I'm moving my body at least 3 times a week, if not 4 times a week, is like a non-negotiable because I did it most of last year and I want to keep that energy, right? I want to keep doing that thing because I realize I can show up better for you guys in my community, my clients, when I take the time to take care of myself, which sometimes means starting my workday a little bit later or moving things around. And it also means making decisions on healthier food and healthier alternatives to like making sure I'm eating more protein and just being really selective with food that I'm eating in this limited amount of time. But something that I want to let go of and leave in the past of last year is how my hormones affected me in business because I is prior to my hysterectomy, right? My body still was going through a lot. And I used to not use it as an excuse. That's really bad. I did not use an excuse because what I was going through was not an excuse. But some of the times where I couldn't show up for myself and for others the way I wanted to be was because my body wouldn't allow me to be. Now, I no longer have that issue because of my surgery, but there's still something inside of me that I realize kind of comes up around that and around that feeling of like that tiredness in the way I was showing up and just kind of in some months, in some business decisions, half-assing or being like, I can't show up that big. I can't do that amazing thing I want to do because my body isn't strong enough for it, right? My body can't handle it because girl, my body can handle it now. And she is so strong and it can show up in more ways than I can count than I have known in a really long time. And I am so excited for what I can do this year because my body feels like my body again and my energy feels like my energy again. So those are kinds of those examples of when I'm talking about those kinds of things when you're journaling that you want to ask yourself. What are those things that you're leaving behind versus you're taking into the new year? Some of them were also relationships of mine. There were some relationships and business relationships or relationships that I was like hanging on to with a tiny, teeny little bit of string because I didn't want to cut somebody out completely that I completely cut it. I deleted the Instagram. I don't even need to see their energy. There was a photo in my house of them still because they were part of my friend group. And I switched the photo out. Those kind of things. I said, you know what? That energy, that person, she does not serve me anymore. I do not need her in my life anymore. It's not bringing positive, so let me just cut all ties to it. So, looking at those kinds of things because you don't realize how much effect that actually has on you and your business and the energy that you put into the new year. And I want this to be a little bit of a cheater note for you all. If journaling ain't your thing, don't fucking force it. Because I'm going to be honest with you, and this might surprise some of you, but it also might not because I'm such a digital girly. Journaling is not my thing. I'm not good at it. My handwriting is trash. I feel like I almost journal less than I truly want to get out because I don't like my handwriting. I get exhausted while doing it. I get blocked by what I'm trying to get on paper. And then I end up not completing a lot of thoughts or a lot of entries because I just give up with it. And so I realized that I could have some really great journal sessions and feedback sessions with ChatGPT. And that it was the best way for me to get my full reflections and thoughts out of my head. And this is what I mean. So I would give an example to my ChatGPT of exactly the kind of reflection questions that I ask myself. A lot of the time I use with my clients as well. I would then put them into my chat agent and say, ask me these questions one by one. Ask me the question, wait for me to give full feedback to you, and then ask me the next one. And so I'd put that in and it would ask me the question and I would voice respond. And it essentially became like this therapeutic moment where I was kind of podcasting like this or voice noting myself and just be able to fully ramble, let go, and not let any blockages happen. And the amount that came out of me in terms of reflection was more than I've ever allowed in previous years where I'm journaling. And so I hope that that might resonate with some of you who feel a little stuck when it comes to journaling sometimes. And like that when, all these different places and people tell you to journal. And you're like, I can't journal because I don't like it. Try it a different way. Try what works for you because this worked for me. And when I truly mean, I felt like I moved more mountains doing it this capacity versus the other way, it was a game changer for me. So then moving into the second thing I did, which was like looking at the goals. So I reflected and said, okay, what do I want into this year? And then started to dig deep on like how I want to fully show up in my business, my personal life, and my health, friendships, relationships in this year. But what I realized when I was doing that is that in the past, I wasn't really setting. I was more task setting, and my goals weren't aligning to like more the mission, the purpose, the fulfillment of what I was doing. And you want to know how I realized it wasn't? And it was because once again, I leaned into ChatGPT and I said, I want you to help me with some knowing what you know about my reflection, knowing what you know about my business. Help me start to put together some goals for my business this year. And let's do some questions. So once again, it asked me questions one by one. And the things that it were asking me weren't about like, do you need to update your website? Do you need to update your membership portal? Do you need to change your pricing? It was more about your vision and your alignment than anything. So it was like, how many clients do you want to impact this year? Do you feel like with your current offerings, you can make the amount of money that you are trying to make this year? They were such bigger questions that really allowed me to set bigger goals aligned to my mission and also think back to my mission, which my mission is to serve over a million women through their business, through community and connection. And so when I sat and I was thinking about that and the goals were coming out of my head, and it was more about who am I becoming? Who do I need to become? What are the bigger shifts and the people I need to align myself with to hit these goals? Less about the tasks that were on my to-do list. I was like, oh my God, have I actually truly ever been goal setting? Or have I just been giving myself a giant task list every year? And I'm still kind of working through that and even still working on goals versus my task and how to think bigger. But I'm going to share with you the thing that has really helped me. And I shared this with a close group of mine recently, was my number one goal question that I asked myself when I went to go like write it down or talk through it with ChatGPT was mixing a little bit of that like quantum manifestation energy into it. If the world was completely limitless, money wasn't a thing, time wasn't a thing, the people you know wasn't a thing, there was nothing that you couldn't have, you couldn't want. How would you show up and what would you do in your business and your personal life? What would life look like? What do you want to do? And also, we're not giving ourselves a time like just this year. In the big picture of life, what are you trying to call in? Because I think sometimes when we go to set our goals, we limit ourselves on how big our goals can be because might want the 10x goal this year, but we're like, "Ugh, I could never do that this year. So I'm going to put that on the back burner." So what's the mini goal of that bigger goal? And so I started with this really giant goal that was completely limitless of like my dream life and what my dream life looks like as a starting place. And then I went backwards from there with other smaller goals. And I will share a few fun ones that I think came out of me that I was surprised about. So realizing that I do want to have impact a million women through community and connection in what I do. And so that's through this podcast, that is through the Bizz Bitch community and movement, through my International Women's Day event, and also through my agency where I'm helping other entrepreneurs build out profitable membership and community. Through all of those lanes, and who knows one more, I overall want to be able to impact and say I've impacted a million women. You see where the difference, where none of that has to do with the fact that I need 10 new members. I need, 3 more podcast episodes. Obviously, the pieces that I need to do in all these other parts of my business are going to help that goal, but that is not the goal. The goal is that bigger vision and where I truly feel like the power within me and lit up to know that that's what I'm going to do. So once I felt like I had actual goals and I knew what the goals were, for the most part, and it still, transitions time to time and moment to moment as things are aligning, and I'm leaving myself space for that as well. I then started to think about my vision board or my intention board or what I'm calling in for the year board and how I wanted to do that. Now, this isn't something completely new to me. I think 2 years ago, realized and decided that I wanted my vision boards to be digital. I am your digital girly. This shouldn't be a surprise again. Once again, I don't like to journal and handwrite. I like a digital world. And I also just feel more comfortable on a computer. I also realized that when I sit down old school vision boarding style with magazines and paper, that it's like to know that I have the magazines, especially these worlds where magazines aren't as easily accessible anymore, the magazines in front of me that have the exact images of the things I'm calling in them is like wild. The chances aren't there. So a lot of the time I feel like we're just finding images in magazines that are like halfway to the thing that we really want. Or that we don't go so specific on our vision boards. We just go so generalized that, to be honest, what you're putting out in the universe could get a little confusing because you're not being specific. You also, a lot of time, some people do this, and those that are you actually that do this, you're a step ahead of the rest, is a lot of people don't put real photos of themselves and their life and what they want on their own vision board. So they're not actually printing photos of them and their partner, let's say, if they wanted something with that partner and like live in a house. They're just putting a guy and some random guy and some random woman or two women that they see and they like in a magazine on their vision board and be like, oh, in my head, that's going to represent us buying our house, right? That's a little confusing to the world. It also is honestly a little bit confusing to our own nervous system inside of ourselves. To where why, when you have the power of Canva these days to create a vision board with the exact images, because you can pull them from the internet, you can pull them from Pinterest, you can pull them from all these crazy places, and your own camera roll on your own phone to put exactly what you want in your vision board and the exact numbers. If you're calling in $250,000 this year, which that is my goal, I want to put $250,000 on my vision board and say like your bank statement is this. And that is easy to do these days with being able to create your own images and put it on there. And I have a goal of as well as like traveling to all these different places. So rather than finding a town that might look like Portugal, I went and Googled Portugal City, the city I want, put that on my digital vision board and then wrote the word Portugal over it. So it's like in my head, my nervous system is attaching to the idea that we are going to Portugal this year. Friends, it's a little bit of a behind the scenes. The Bizz Bitch community is going to Portugal this year. That will be where the Bizz Bitch retreat is this year. Wait, stay tuned. So I hope this helps you. That being said, I don't want to knock the people who still love to vision board the more traditional way. I think there's a place for it. Here's the thing I want you to do if you vision board more in that way versus the digital way. I want to make sure you do two things. I want to make sure that in addition to finding the pictures from magazines that light you up and you feel aligned to, that you also go take the time to print photos of real people in your life and real things in your life that you're attaching goals to and put them on your vision boards. I also urge you to put like real numbers on your vision board as well. If you're calling in a certain financial amount, a certain amount of clients, whatever it is, put those. But make sure that your vision board is a mixture of your actual goals, those bigger picture, the things that embody the things that are going to light you up, fulfill you. And in addition to the things that you actually need to get done in order to get some of those done, because I do think it starts to align the goals with the actual strategy in a vision board for me, the two together, because it reminds me that in order to manifest quantum leap and do these things energy-wise, there has to be some work. That's the only way I can do it, right? There has to be work that you put in to manifest and to quantum leap into the things you want to. I am a firm believer that we cannot just do full magic up here in our businesses. I wish we could. There has to be some work to get there. But when you manifest it and you put energy towards it and you think about it and you think about yourself already shifting into that energy, and then you put some work behind it, that is where the true magic happens. So now I've taken you through my framework and what I did this year to get me there. And like I said, I'm about 95% done. The thing I want to talk about is your vision board and your goals, and it feeling like a lot to sit down in a 2-hour, 4-hour, 6-hour, 8-hour session and get this all done. I don't think it's possible. I don't think you should be giving yourself so much pressure to be doing this. I will say that it has taken me about 6 to 8 separate sessions of sitting down for different amounts of times to get to where I'm at. 2-hour sessions of me solo doing some reflecting. I've gone to different groups of like really trusted women in my life to hold the space for this. I have taken the time to sit down and talk with my partner about this, which is actually something new that I've never done in the past, is to share my goals and my vision of my business, my life with my partner. Now, in no means sit here and lie to you that he's sitting down and goal setting and vision boarding with me. It's just not him. And that's okay. I don't need it to be him. But what he was willing to do was sit down and listen to mine and talk about the things that we need to do to support each other for me to reach those things. Do I think he has some of his own goals and he's starting to attach to what that might look like? Yes. And I think he likes the energy of me thinking about them, and it gives him some thought. And I've already seen him do a few things that he doesn't normally do because I did share my goals with him and where I wanted to go this year. But just even taking the time to start putting it out to the universe and telling my partner in my life that this is what I'm working for was a big one. The other thing I did, and I did this last year, and now that I have even a bigger team, is, and if you have a team, but also you can do this with your just mastermind circles, your biz besties, is I am planning a meeting the first week of February with my team to share with them my vision board, share with them my goals and my reflections from last year. And I want to share this with them because I want them to be on board. I want them to know what I have moved through to get there and where I envision all of us and this thing that we're building together going. And I think it's really important to share that energy and put it out there and get them excited and on it with you, and also see where maybe they might surprise you and want to jump in on things that you may not have thought that they wanted to be part of, or where they just become a bigger cheerleader for you to get there. And so those are two things that I am doing. But with your vision board and sitting down to do it in those short sessions, I want to also give you permission that if the full year feels too big and you're just not someone that can think that big, and that is why you have never done the vision board or the goal setting, and it feels just really heavy to make those kinds of decisions, then move it to quarterly. Quarterly is totally cool. And there's actually some really great books out there about it. Actually, a few of the girls in my mastermind are reading it right now. Like, go quarterly. That's fine too. Work towards some goals for the quarter. So something I started doing last year with the Goal Planning Collective, which is now the Accountability Collective inside the Bizz Bitch world, is we do the bigger year plan goal, but then we also went in and made quarterly vision boards that were word based. So they were almost like word maps that you made when you were younger. So like the main word in the center, and then just like a bunch of words around that helped you align your goals and some of the tasks you need to get done for that quarter in that word map, and then using those as like reflection points. So you could go back to it and look at it when you needed that friendly reminder. It allows you to kind of recalibrate every quarter and be like, okay, check, did these things, haven't done this yet. Do I still want to do this? Or have I realized I've grown out of that and that no longer aligns with my business? So quarterly is totally cool. And if that feels more digestible to you, then do that. So as I was mentioning, some of the times that out of these like 6 to 8 times I've sat down to set my goals, do my vision boards, which is, I know, a lot, but in reality, it's what I needed to get here, because if you told me I had to do it all in 4 hours, I'd get overwhelmed. I'd have a glass of wine and not do the activity at the party, to be honest. My projector self also can't sit down and do all of this by myself, because I need the energy of those others doing really cool shit and hearing what they do to kind of fuel me inside to get these done. Knowing that you need to protect your energy when you're goal setting and vision boarding, and making sure you're aligned with people around you who are in the same spirit and vibe and energy as you, and people that aren't going to be around you who are going to tell you your goals are too big or your vision's too big and like shit on your life. Essentially, you need people around you that push you bigger, make you think bigger, right? And that kind of energy alignment when you're doing this kind of stuff. So do it with people that you feel safe around, you feel safe sharing your visions and goals with. This can be small and intentional, or if you totally vibe at one of those big vision boarding workshops that have been happening all over the place, then that's really cool too. But just making sure that you're taking the time and the space. Also knowing that if you're a partner, if this isn't their thing and you force them to sit down and do this with you, and the energy is just ick, then just let that be what that was, a fun experience. But go take the time to remove that energy and work on your own goals by yourself, or with like a biz bestie, or inside of a community. Okay, we're going to touch on this last bit, and then I think that's what I truly have on my heart, is making sure that the goals that you set and the things that you put out there are achievable and light you up. And then to even further close that loop, making sure once you do achieve them, you celebrate them and acknowledge that you've done the work and you've done the thing and you've hit that goal. Too often, more than not, as women, specifically entrepreneurs, Do we get to that thing we put on our vision board, put on our goal list, check the box, go to the next thing? We don't give our time to go, holy shit, I just did that. Oh my God, I'm so proud of you, talking to yourself. I'm so proud of myself. I did that. Sit on it for a day. Take yourself out to a nice glass of wine. Take yourself somewhere and celebrate that goal that you have achieved and how hard you worked to get there and all the pieces you needed to do to get there. It is so important to get that serotonin hit to feel like you're achieving that thing. And with that, when you're looking at your goals and you're actually starting to map this out for the year, which we're not going to get into today because I just want this to be your space for the reflection, the goals, not the actually strategy of mapping out how you achieve them. But just knowing when you look at your goals and start to think about how you're going to achieve all them throughout the year, you also take into mind the real shit happening in your life, right? If you have this big goal by the end of quarter 1, to launch a new podcast, as an example. Yeah, you have the most amazing trip to Italy planned for 3 weeks. And you also know that it's your wife's birthday in those times. The chances are you're not going to really have the space in quarter 1 to be able to get that podcast off the ground in the way that you want to be proud of and show up for yourself in. And then by the end of quarter 1, your podcast isn't going to be off the ground. And you're just going to feel like you didn't win, like you didn't get it, and it's going to make you feel like crap. So making sure when you are setting goals and looking at the strategy of how to achieve those goals for the year, that you are taking into mind the things like travel, birthdays, life, rest. If you have children, their breaks. If you have partners, their birthdays, your best friend's birthday. All those other things outside in life that you can control, but you can't really control, but also it's called living life and it's such a beautiful thing and you need to do that. And I hate to see someone who can't fully enjoy their trip to Italy because they're so stuck in here on their launch of whatever they're doing and they're on their phone every day, rather than if they just would have scheduled it correctly, they could have also enjoyed, fully lived in the moment in Italy on that vacation and then had a beautiful launch at the end as well. So it's important that you win and you set yourself up for success and you get that serotonin hit. And you need to just make sure that you're aligning what you're putting out there with the reality of what your life is and what you can hold space for. So I want this episode to be a permission slip for you that you're not behind. And if you've done it already, that you can pivot and shift. And if you feel like you kind of did it, but you did it a little sloppy and you felt pressured, that you can do it again and you can go back and reverse. Or if you're like me and it took you 8 sessions to get it done and still have some room to finish some, that you have that space and to know that it can look a little bit different for everybody. And also to know that if you put some goals and vision out there, but you're not really feeling like aligned and fulfilled with them because you realize you didn't really reflect and look inward on last year at all before you did that, then give yourself the space to do it. Go reflect, then go back to your vision board and say, does this still feel right? It's actually, I sat down with a group of that trusted group that I said at a beautiful beach house, which also highly, highly recommend when you're goal setting and vision boarding that you take yourself to a really elevated space to do it in. And I sat down with some friends and before we dove in, I took them through some of the reflection questions. And once we ended, someone there admitted, she's like, I have never thought about reflecting before I goal set. She's like, I literally just closed the year, done and dusted, move on, and now I'm setting goals. She's like, I feel so different about what I'm bringing in and also realizing how much cool shit I did last year that I haven't taken the time to actually celebrate. And it's so, so important that you do that. So I give this gift to you to make sure you reflect before you goal set. You give yourself space and bring yourself into places where you feel so elevated and aligned and safe before you do it. Feel free to break it down smaller and bite-sized pieces that feel really digestible and feel more aligned to you. And if you need accountability in it, join a community. That's what we're here for. And that's the difference between community spaces and events is if you go to a vision board event where you're not well connected to that community, you drop your vision boards, you do your vision boards and poof, never see those people again. If you do your vision in your goal setting surrounded by people who truly care about you and your business, then there's accountability that happens and follow-up that happens and continued conversations that happen. And I think there's a lot of magic to be said about that and what we can do. So new year and new energy should not make you feel like there is more pressure. It should just make you feel like there's newer intention. newer vibes that you get to put into it, which I know is such like a general word, but like that's what I mean. I want the vibes to be good and the way you set yourself up for success this year. So with that, my friends, wrapping up a solo episode of how I have tried to align myself with how I am calling in this year and showing up this year. And the thing I didn't share that I want to share before the end of the year is I finally have my word, I think, for the year. And also give yourself some time to come up on that word and also let it shift when it wants to. My words for the year are identity shift and quantum. I've got two, technically three, but once again, it's your life, it's your goals, your vision. You make the shots. This is why this group is a group of unapologetic and bold entrepreneurs who are here to make our own rules when it comes to our business. So with that, love you lots. Bye, bitches. And if you liked this episode, please rate, review, subscribe, share it with a biz bestie who you think might need some support with getting their vision and goals together for the year. Send me a DM. What did you like? Leave a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, let me know if you liked my new co-host furry friends. And I love you lots. Bye, bitches.